My upgrades are invincible. Rewrite, Chapter 5, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. You know, I think I was developing a true racial hatred for midgets. And it was true racism at that. Hating someone of a different skin color was completely different from hating someone that is literally not at all human. And why was I embracing my inner ultra-redneck from the deep south of America? Now empty them's pockets and drop your shoes, you biggus. A fucking mangy-looking Pallum ordered me as he and his group of 3 pallums and fucking short dwarves were trying to mug me in the first turn I took in the first floor of the dungeon. Once again I fucking hate midgets. I was reborn into this world with my first fantasy world experience being getting mugged for my shoes, and now the first time I enter the dungeon I get mugged by midgets. I raised up my Leviathan axe and I spoke with a snarl. That's a lot of shit you are talking down there at dick-sucking height. Maybe you should close your mouth. At my words, the leading Pallum jabbed his literally fucking rust-covered spear at me, but he wasn't an experienced level 1 as his thrust was nowhere near as fast as my thrown Leviathan axe that spun through the air and landed with a dull wet crunching noise in the middle of the Pallum's chest as he was rushing at me. The leading Pallum was only wearing a thicker leather apron-like thing as armor, so when the slightly magical axe collided with his chest, it went through that bit of leather like it was nothing, and as his partners cried out in shock I raised up my hand and mentally recalled the axe back to my hand as I took a breath and held down any bile at the sight of the Pallum drowning on his own blood as his lungs were beyond fucked. For a second I considered offering the other 3 pallums or dwarves an escape as I wanted to process this killing of a person at child height. But instead one of them, a woman with her oddly fit clothes hanging on her frame, raised up her arms with her surprisingly ample handful-sized breasts clad in a sports bra actually came into view with how she raised her arms up in the air. I surrender. I don't want to die by someone with a magical weapon. She cried out, and the other 2 pallums eyed her with disgust at her begging for her life. With another one stomping forward and mule kicking the woman in the stomach, sending her flying back a whole couple meters and crying as she hugged her bare stomach that was bleeding from the rough treads that were on the Pallum's boots. Filthy biggin lover, I will deal with you afterward. He spat before squaring up with me, and I realized his spear wasn't a rusty kitchen knife tied to a stick and actually fitted spear tip on top of a polished and sanded bar of wood. Ompa, you stick him in the back with the sticker when you can. He ordered his compatriot, and I saw the other one had a jagged and almost jagged blade on top of his spear that was clearly for attacking adventurers rather than monsters. Why are you idiots even attacking me? This is literally at the beginning of the first floor. I demanded as I took a step to the side so the other midget couldn't get behind me. But at my question, those 2 didn't answer at all, and instead, the second short one tried to stab me in the side. But there was a reason the races of the world looked down on pallums. For not only were they small and had a childish frame, but they didn't have any of the talents that other races like dwarves, elves, renards, or any other races had. With my cheat of fusing stuff and having the resources of the Hephaestus Familia open to me for the hours I put into fusing materials for them, my armor wasn't something a piddly jagged pig iron blade could do anything to, as the blade just scratched across the ceramic-like conjoined plates I made with a couple of dozen killer ant-exoskeleton pieces. We fought for a couple of minutes, mostly us teasing one another with their spearing aiming for my exposed face and myself trying to break the tip off their spears so I could close in, but finally, it seemed the stress of the fight got to the true leader as he yelled and threw his spear that collided with a dull thud against my side's armor as I managed to divert it downwards from my face. But as I took the opportunity to rush forward, trapping the spear point of the other Pallum's spear in my hand as I brought my axe down through his shoulder and into his chest for a killing blow, I looked up and saw how the leader had decided to take the girl he kicked as a fucking hostage. Drop your fucking weapon or the biggin lover gets it. He squeaked, holding a knife he pulled from his side to her neck as he tried to pull her up to her feet while she held her clearly still hurting stomach area. I literally couldn't help but blink. Was he fucking stupid? Yeah, I see you hesitating. Drop your weapon and run away and she will live to see another day. He yelled, getting more confident, and his fucking arrogance of thinking I cared for the midget who was part of the party who attempted to mug me as well made me burst into laughter. Even as I laughed I just pointed at him with my hand that wasn't holding my axe as I shook my head. Dude. I am going to kill you no matter what. But I will make you a deal. I said cheerfully as a sadistic thought came to mind as I spoke. If you can run faster than my weapon deeper into the dungeon behind you, I won't chase you as I have. Words for the morsel you are holding, I said, and in response, the Pallum didn't bother to slit the throat of his once companion and just rushed into the dungeon, but I switched out my axe for something different I got out of the stores of Tsubaki's old projects. A large heavy crossbow. And after a moment of aiming, a loud clunking noise rang out, followed by a dull thumping noise, with the Pallum fell to the ground convulsing as the large bolt shot through his neck, severing his spine, with the bolt stabbing into the rock wall behind him a dozen meters in the distance. Was aiming for his chest. Fucking fantasy midgets. I snorted before I sent the crossbow back into my fusion space to take back out my axe as I walked over to the girl, who froze as I stood over here with the axe in hand. So, I drawled as I eyed her. What do I do with you? I asked, partly rhetorically but honestly truthfully, as a part of me wanted to just take the 2 large bags she had on her side and call it her price for her freedom and life. But a dark part of me that resented the fucking audacity of being fucking mugged at the entrance of the dungeon wanted to go further. The girl shuddered and then laid flat with her back on the dungeon as she closed her eyes. I cannot escape you. If you wish to take something of me as the victor, then here in the dungeon I cannot complain. As a member of the Soma Familia, it's not like I have any backing. She continued wryly, and that cinched it. Soma Familia. The Familia produced divine alcohol that was given to its Familia members, and that Soma wine broke their minds and made them the worst of addicts. But she seemed clear-headed. I thought before snorting, as it made little difference. Stay there while I think, I ordered tiredly as I walked over and looted the 3 corpses and dealt with a goblin with my goblin-eating sword that came from deeper in the dungeon.